Dr. Anna Paolini, the first question is for you, actually. And please also, we'd like to learn more about UNESCO's activities in education in the region. But in general, I would like to start with a question that I'm sure is on everybody's minds. Today, many of the students around the world are learning from distance, or let's say are experiencing distant learning. Has technology interrupted our learning abilities? And are we in a way becoming now more distant from learning and from the education sector? Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me thank you, the organizer, before replying to your very interesting and timely question, but to thank everybody for getting this panel together. I think it's a very, very timely moment for Kuwait, but in general, as we are going to unprecedented circumstances for which no one in the world was really ready, to deal with. Of course, we are 1 year into the pandemic. A lot has been learned, and also concerning, as you mentioned, ICT and the support of technology in delivering education. So let me go to your request. I mean, definitely ICT will never surpass the learning that can give a human person. First of all, because when the learning is done by different components, of course, you have the component of transmitting knowledge to kids, but you have also a very important component that is the social sphere that goes around the class, the interaction between teachers and students and between peers. And of course, with all the interaction that the teachers bring to the table. Definitely, we had the education system in every country had to gear up into providing either online learning or blending learning, mixing in person with distance learning, depending on the circumstances of the country itself, of the pandemic, but as well of the possibility that the country had to cover all its geographical area by internet, and also to provide enough technical supports, laptops and so on, not only to families and children, but also to the students, not to mention the ability of the teacher, to adapt to the new way of teaching. This has been almost a revolution in a year, because in many countries, this support doesn't exist. So the teacher had to invent, but even in Western world where, we are using more internet, and the Gulf as well, where internet goes and reaches everywhere and so on, the transformation has required a quite substantive change of attitude, behavior, mind. And this goes from the decision makers in the ministries, the internet providers, but again, the families that had to support the students to learn online. So they were definitely more solicited and not necessarily, skilled to do that. And the same thing for the teacher. So it has been an enormous challenge. I think that in many circumstances, especially in Western countries, this, in a year, we have seen the progress. But to return to your questions, fundamental question, you will never replace, the human component. There are psychosocial support to kids, and I'm thinking of kids in situations that are maybe learners in difficulties, learners with disabilities, learners of community in wars and another things, needs this human interaction. Now, there is a challenge, of course, because it's imposed to us by the situation. So we adapt, and countries have been adapting, I would say, to the day. Not even, because you really cannot make a long-term plan with the evolving of the situation where you have a country hit, then no, then only one part of the country and so on. So there's been an incredible adaptation of the system. So I should commend, all the educators, the ministers of education around the world that really took this commitment. It's not easy. It's easy to criticize, but believe me, it has been an enormous effort. I think there are a lot of lessons learned to move forward. And I think that fora like this one can make us think and rethink. And of course, in the case of Kuwait, what it worked, what it didn't work, what can be done better, what was excellent, and we can share with other countries. We are all in the making. It's not finished yet, unfortunately. We are still going through a wave. But yes, that would be my.
Right. And if I may, regarding the adaptation you mentioned, what is your office, the UNESCO office in Doha, doing either on a regional level or on a local level with the individual GCC countries to either encourage this adaptation or to learn from these experiences and perhaps help us enter a new normal for education once this coronavirus epidemic is over?
Well, first of all, I mean, of course, we work at global level with a lot of the sister agency. I see my colleague Al-Tayeb online and others. Of course, we work extremely closely together, both at our headquarter level, but also on the ground. On the ground, we are listening, to the needs, and each of the Gulf countries are different and have different needs and made also different choices. But we gather, for example, through a regional ministerial meeting to exchange this information and exchange also what worked and what didn't work. As I said before, information, but we also had organized a global education meeting that we organized in October last year. This was a major meeting, getting all the ministries around the globe and political leaders, policymakers, but also development partners, global education actors that wants really to enforce this global cooperation and also investment in education. And out of this, there has been a declaration with a very interesting points, especially leading to the pandemic, that we have seen that the students that have lost the most are the students that have been marginalized, and the social, emotional impact of the pandemic has been really enormous. So children are stressed by this. So we need to enforce measure globally to look at this part of the learner population. Also, we need to enroll campaign and target support with learners that are at risk of not going back to the system. When you are out of the system 1 year, and unfortunately, a situation of war or a situation of stress, and we have seen a lot in the region, from Syria to Iraq to Libya. When a kid is out of school for a certain number of months or maybe of years, it's always more difficult to reintegrate him or her into the classroom. And of course, he needs a support system in place. So that this is very important. So, and this should be, targeting a lot of girls, because they are the one that suffered as well the most in all this. Already in certain countries, like in African countries and so on, girls, access to education is lower than boys. Therefore, there should be a special attention for girls not to lose these opportunities. Of course, it's not the case of the Gulf countries. I mean, that's I have to say. But, people with disabilities and so on. And then, as I mentioned before, enforce and reinforce the training and the skills development of the teachers, and, to increase the job opportunities and increase the specific skills that the teachers and the educator in general should have to face this kind of situation. We have seen that we were not ready. So these are the outcome of this. This will be translated into, local, national, policies and embedded in the response of the countries. So we are looking at the global agenda, bringing the countries together. Kuwait as participating, of course, in all the ministerial, several meetings that we had and that were organized, and also our recipient and listeners, on this. Needless to say that through also the United Nations Resident Coordinator, we are following up on this achievement and this step forward. And of course, we are ready through the system to support wherever, to advise if the governments wish to have an advice, and also to move forward the agenda.